All right, let's dive right into this explainer where we are unpacking a fascinating doctoral dissertation that reveals how we can actively control our metabolic health through some really simple, targeted lifestyle hacks. We're going to explore the comprehensive work of Dr. Franziska Büssing, whose research, alongside other key clinical studies, examines exactly how our nutritional intake and physical activity influence our glucose regulation. Basically, we're going to look at healthy individuals and discover how we can actively hack our blood sugar to promote a highly favorable metabolic profile.
So I want you to think about this for just a second. What if literally everything you thought about a calorie was just wrong? We are so often taught that a calorie is just a calorie, right? And that exercise really only works for our metabolism by creating an energy deficit. Calories in, calories out. Well, the research we're looking at today completely challenges that simplistic view. It actually shows us that when you move, and what else is inside your food besides just the raw sugar, changes the entire physiological game.
But before we get to the hacks, we really have to establish the stakes here. You might hear the medical term postprandial tossed around. That just means after eating. Every single time you eat a meal, your blood sugar rises. That's normal. But here's the critical part. Massive after-meal blood sugar spikes are an enormous independent risk factor for cardiovascular diseases and type 2 diabetes. Even if your fasting blood sugar is totally fine, if those after-meal spikes are too high, it creates this state of oxidative stress that damages your blood vessels. It's a literal window of metabolic vulnerability that happens 3 or more times a day.
Okay, moving into our first major investigation. Section 1, Orange Juice versus Cola. It's a classic metabolic showdown.
When we compare the nutritional breakdown of standard orange juice and caffeine-free cola, you'll notice something pretty surprising. The carbohydrate and sugar contents are practically identical. In a rigorous 14-day intervention study, healthy participants drank 20% of their daily energy requirement from these specific drinks. We're talking about 112 grams of sugar a day from the orange juice and 114 grams from the cola. Now, if sugar is just sugar, our bodies should react to them in exactly the same way, right?
But they absolutely don't. Our bodies are way smarter than a simple math equation. After 14 days, the cola consumption led to higher day-long blood sugar levels and actually reduced C-peptide excretion, which means lowered insulin secretion. That is a massive red flag for metabolic stress. But the orange juice? Not only did it not increase gout risk, it actually lowered the participants' serum uric acid levels and increased uric acid excretion. Elevated uric acid is a major risk factor for cardiovascular issues and obesity. So while cola harmed the metabolic profile, the orange juice actually promoted a much more favorable metabolic profile than the soda.
So what's actually going on here? Section 2, the secret in the juice. Let's look at the active compounds making all the difference.
It really all boils down to 2 incredible secondary components in the juice. First, you've got hesperidin. This is a natural bioactive flavonoid that acts almost like a microscopic roadblock. It actually inhibits an enzyme called xanthine oxidase, so it essentially stops your body from synthesizing uric acid in the first place. And then there's vitamin C. The high vitamin C content competitively boosts renal clearance, which is just a fancy way of saying it turbocharges your kidneys to flush out the uric acid that's already in your system. The cola? It has none of these active compounds. It just delivers a naked sugar load.
All right, that covers what we drink. Now, let's talk about what we do. Section 3, the post-meal walk, where timing is literally everything.
Think about the timeline of your typical dinner. About 15 to 20 minutes after you take your first bite, glucose starts appearing in your bloodstream. By the 60-minute mark, your blood sugar is hitting its absolute peak. If you just sit down on the couch after eating, your body has to frantically pump out insulin to deal with that massive flood. But if you start a light walking intervention at exactly the 30-minute mark, you are perfectly straddling that blood sugar peak. You're intercepting the glucose exactly when it's rushing into your system.
And the reason this works so beautifully comes down to this really cool biological concept, GLUT4 translocation. Don't let the jargon scare you. When you rhythmically contract your skeletal muscles, like moving your legs during a walk, you activate an entirely insulin-independent pathway. That muscle contraction brings transporters straight to the cell surface. What this means in plain English is that your contracting muscles are essentially competing with your bloodstream for glucose. They directly siphon it out to use as fuel without needing a single drop of insulin. It's an incredible biological bypass that actually works even in people who are insulin resistant.
To put that into perspective, just how effective is this biological bypass? We're talking about a massive 30% improvement. Research showed that a leisurely 20-minute stroll after dinner blunted the blood sugar spike by a whopping 30% in type 2 diabetics, compared to doing that exact same walk before dinner. Think about that for a second. Same exact meal, same exact amount of exercise, but it yields a 30% better result on blood sugar control just by switching the timing to after the meal. Even just a 10-minute walk makes a highly measurable difference.
Which leads us perfectly into section 4, bypassing the energy balance. This is honestly where things get really mind-bending.
The researchers wanted to know, is this post-meal walking hack only working because you're simply burning off the calories you just ate? To find out, they meticulously controlled participants' diets under 3 conditions: caloric restriction, zero energy balance, meaning they ate exactly what they burned, and finally overfeeding by 25%. And get this, the low-intensity post-meal walking significantly improved postprandial glycemia, equally across all 3 states. This completely proves that post-meal exercise manages blood sugar levels totally independent of overall energy balance. Even if a person is actively overeating, a simple post-meal stroll intercepts that glucose spike.
Okay, we have covered a ton of fascinating science today. Section 5, your metabolic action plan. It's time to actually apply this to our daily lives. These findings prove that personalized nutrition and lifestyle interventions are vital tools for preventing cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes.
So here is your high-yield checklist of micro-interventions. First up, ditch the empty sodas. If you're going to consume natural sugars, choose beverages with active metabolic compounds like flavonoids and vitamin C to mitigate the metabolic impact. Second, commit to a 10 to 15-minute light walk after your main meals. Third, timing is everything, remember? Try to start that walk about 30 minutes after your first bite to perfectly catch that glucose peak. And lastly, if you can only manage 1 walk a day, prioritize the post-dinner walk. That is when your natural circadian insulin sensitivity is at its absolute lowest, meaning your body really needs the most help clearing out that glucose.
So I will leave you with this one final question. Will you let your metabolism control you, or will you take 10 minutes to control it? The science couldn't be clearer. A calorie isn't just a calorie, and a walk is so much more than a simple calorie burn. By understanding the active compounds in our food and leveraging the incredible insulin-independent biology of our muscles, we hold the keys to our own metabolic flexibility. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I seriously hope you're eager